Hey everyone, welcome to a very special episode of There's Just Something About Kansas City. We got this started, I'd say about 6 months ago or so. And since that time, it has really taken off, and I've got to introduce you to the people who are really the brains behind this whole operation, okay? First of all, my lovely wife, Sarah, whose idea this was. She had to drag me kicking and screaming into doing this. I always thought the idea was wonderful. I just didn't think I was the right guy to do it. But you trusted me enough to say that, no, you are the right guy, and we're going to do this, and we have, and it's really taken off. And right beside her is her daughter, Kate Fetter, Kate McEnerney-Fetter, or Kate Fetter, and she is behind all of our social media. She set up the website, which is just wonderfully done, and does everything behind the scenes of,
She's got her own company.
She's got
Creative.
There we go.
There you go.
Kate Mac Creative. That's it.
Shout out.
She has her own, and then of course the man behind getting this all out there on the podcast is my good friend Ben Messner. Worked with for years and years at Sports Radio 810, and he is the owner and operator of Marquee Creative, and this is his podcast studio that we do it from, and it has been great to be able to have people I know and trust to be involved in this, and it has been just it's just worked out really well to this point. So, okay, their creative mind and genius and your idea.
Well, this was a story that needed to be told. It really did, and I'm going to probably reference one of my first podcast that I really made an impact on me was Bobby Bell. Bobby Bell is somebody that we've known, and we've gone to so many events and things like that. But I remember one of the first events that I had ever gone to with you. You were up doing something, emceeing or talking to somebody. And I was back in the back and got to talking to this nice gentleman, and it turns out to be Bobby Bell. And I just thought, oh, my gosh, I was in awe because, I remember growing up, my dad and, all of my parents' friends were just, he was an icon, a god at that point in time in Kansas City back in the 70s. And so I'm talking to him, and I'm like, oh, gosh, so I'm thinking of things to say. And so what brought you here? The questions that you ask your guests. What brought you here? What did you do while you were here? Of course, played football. And then, but more importantly, you could have gone anywhere. Why did you stay? He said, looked me right in the eye, and he said, there's just something about Kansas City.
So you're saying it's Bobby Bell's idea?
Yeah.
This podcast?
Exactly.
You're taking all the credit here.
He's the one that...
Bobby, if you're listening, you're not getting 10%. Okay, that's all. You're not. That's it.
I've always told him he was the one that coined the phrase. But he said there's just something about Kansas City. And really, that I was like, oh, gosh, got an idea there. And then as we would go to subsequent events, I'd get to talking to people kind of the same way. And that phrase, exact wording, came up so many times. Mm-hmm. And I remember driving home from, many events with you and saying, this is something. There's a story here. Something. This is something.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, that'd be great. That'd be great. Oh, that'd be great. And I thought, no, you need to do it. Well, I can't do it. I can't. Nobody knows who I am. I'm retired. Nobody knows who I am now. And I kept saying, I think you still have a story to tell.
Yeah.
And you've done it quite well.
And we've told it. Yeah.
And then
we've told it.
After that, it was more of going out and just finding the right people and putting the right people in the right spot.
Yeah, bringing them in.
That's when, I talked to Kate and I said, what do you think? Do you think that you'd be open to maybe doing what you do best, which is all of the creative side of things with the social media and the branding and a website, and you had just started your own company, and I thought, let's go, let's do this. And then you bought in, and you have just been,
yeah.
She was a godsend.
Without her, we'd be.
Yeah, exactly. She's always been a godsend to me.
Yeah.
But in this capacity,
your oldest child, of course.
I knew that we needed somebody to do this kind of thing. I knew I couldn't do it, and you've gone way beyond. And then after that, finding, coming and talking to Ben.
Yeah.
And, the studio and everything.
Kate, what did you think when you first heard the idea and
Well, it's something that you've been talking about for a really long time, so it's not the first time I had heard about the idea, and you'd kind of talked about some different iterations of how we tell the story, how we share this. And I mean, that's my passion, is the storytelling side of things. And we just do it in different ways. So yeah, when it kind of really came to fruition that you're like, we're doing it, we're going to get recording, we're going to share these stories. It's just been such a fun ride. It's so.
And it gets better every time.
Yeah, and it's off the wall. We're just trying new things. We're throwing things out there and seeing what sticks. It's a blast for me to be able to just kind of, try things out. And we're having a lot of fun. So yeah, if you're not already following us on social, get on there.
Yeah, do it.
Facebook, Instagram.
And I'll come
Twitter.
back to you for the for that, and for the stats.
Absolutely.
We have some really interesting stats to talk about as well for being here. Ben, what did you think when you first heard the idea and we were going to do this? I know it would be good for your new company here at Marquee Creative as well to add on to your list of clients. But what were your thoughts when you first heard?
Well, I love the idea from the beginning. I thought that we had an endless amount of guests that we could get in this show, and between your contacts and everyone Sarah knows that we'd have no shortage of people to bring in that we could do on this, with the show. So, and I've been blown away with how many people have said yes. That that I think you were telling me the other day. Nobody said no that we've asked you to do this show. So,
and in fact,
seems a good sign.
Right. You're absolutely right. And that, in the fact, we've only had to do one Zoom, which is pretty interesting because a lot of people at first are going, well, maybe we'll Zoom or whatever. But everybody has come into the studio here at 9907 Flum, Marquee Creative, and has come into studio to do it. I mean, and we'll talk about some of the people we've had, and then, of course, some of the people we're going to have.
Yep.
And, the list is endless, and a lot of it's great because people who come in to do it go, you know who you should talk to? You know who you should talk to?
That's who you should, fun.
And that has been, and we are, we have years worth of stuff because we drop it once a week, and it's just every Tuesday we drop a new episode. And Kate, you have some stats of people and countries and states and whatever who have picked us up in just over the last 6 months, which is wonderful.
Yeah. It's been fun to watch it grow and to watch it spike when different people, share it with their communities. It's somebody new each week. We've got a new crew that's tuning in. So, I think I gave you the numbers. It's 45 states, right?
Yeah, 45. 15 countries, including the United States. We'll talk about a few of those in a minute. Then 45 states. So what we're going to tell you who isn't here, and then we'd like you to go to anyone there and say, would you please go to There's Just Something About Kansas City. Alaska, Maine, Rhode Island, Vermont, and West Virginia are the only states that people have not tuned in from. So the other 45 states in the union, they have. And then we have...
No,
go
you're
ahead.
good.
You're
good to go.
And then we have Australia, Chile, Chechnya, France, Germany, India, Ireland, Italy, New Zealand, Portugal, Puerto Rico, St. Kitts. Somebody's on vacation. Switzerland, United Kingdom, and of course the United States. So we just people are listening all over the country. And if you have family and friends, relatives, maybe people who are in the military and won't be. I know you're going to see this right around the first of the year, the holiday season. They're missing Kansas City. They're missing you. Here's a little touch of Kansas City for them to, just go to There's Just Something About Kansas City and then keep it on their mind. If they ever miss home, they can tune in and see who they'd like to listen to. So it's been terrific from that standpoint. So.
Yeah, totally. And if you're one of those people that's listening, and what was it, St. Kitts?
St. Kitts, yeah.
Or vacation.
Don't forget your suntan lotion. Don't forget
our Wyoming friends, or Hawaii. Hawaii must be on there.
They're on. So is Wyoming and Montana. It's great. Yeah.
So if you're out there and you're listening, tell us why. It's so much fun seeing people respond.
Oh, yeah, definitely.
So
definitely, yeah.
Get with us on there, join the community.
And if you know someone too, I don't know if you mentioned that, if you know someone that you'd like to see and that you would like to see us have
fits
on.
into what we're trying to do here, where There's Just Something About Kansas City.
Exactly.
We've always said, people, places, things that make this such a wonderful place to live and raise our kids and do all that sort of thing. Because I know you guys are from here, okay? You've been here most of your lives, or at least in the area. Sarah, you left for a while, left to Arizona, and came back. I'm from Pittsburgh originally, and spent a lot of time in Philadelphia and a lot of other places over the country. And this was going to be a short stop. That was 1981, and so I'm still here. So there is just something about Kansas City. So I don't think there's any doubt about that. Any bloopers, funny stories, any stuff like that you guys want to talk about before we talk about some specific clips that have been on some of our past shows that were pretty funny or pretty serious, from both standpoints.
It's funny because I'm more behind the scenes, so
Yes.
I'm more in contact with the guests that we're having on and the contacts that I've made that way, and reaching out to new people and things like that. And so I kind of get a little bit of the behind the scenes kind of thing. And a couple of them that I just think about is when we had Sly James on. And first off, as I thought it was going to be a Zoom call, so we were prepared to come in and do a Zoom call, and it was going to be
Sly was going to probably be at work,
but you,
right?
and you were going to surprise him, and you thought you were going to be so funny, and you don't. So you go in and you're looking through your stuff, and you come out, you've got your bow tie on and your nice jacket on and things like that, and you come in, and I was just behind you just a little bit, but I was coming in and out of the parking lot, and I thought, wait a minute, that's Sly James, he's here. Oh, he's here. So I come running in. I'm like, he's here. And you're like, okay, all right. So we can, get everything ready to go. And he comes walking in a baseball cap and a T-shirt. You're in the bow tie.
Sure, I know. That was pretty funny.
I thought that was, and he got a good laugh out of that one too. So
because he was well known for his bow tie.
Uh-huh.
So in fact, when we had Bob Kendrick in, I was thinking of dressing in a tuxedo. Because Bob is always, he dressed to the nines. He does the things at the Royals and all that. And I'm thinking, Bob's going to come, he's going to have a three-piece suit on. I told him it was casual and the whole deal. I didn't dress in a suit. Bob walked in right off the golf course. He had a ball cap on. He had a golf shirt on. And he had just got done playing golf over at Swope. And he walked in. So that was that was pretty funny. But they're good. A lot of the bloopers happened on the episodes themselves, yeah.
And they stuck around, I think, for the live show too. You guys probably heard them live. So
yes, absolutely, yeah, he did, absolutely. So, as far as some of the clips from the shows, which really hit with me and just really, I'll start out, Kate, and then you, and I think Sarah's just going to talk in general, right? Mm-hmm, Ben, you're going to just talk in general about it, right? Correct? Okay, so one of the funniest episodes we've had are Chris Katz and Dana Wright. Okay, Chris Katz, of course, from Channel 9, long-time anchor at Channel 9. Dana Wright, of course, was in TV for a long time at KCTV5. She was an anchor. She was an investigative reporter. Then she crossed over to KMBZ Radio, and she's on there with Scott Parks, and they do the Dana and Parks show in the afternoon. Well, she's funny. I mean, really funny. And I told her when we were done the interview with her and Chris, I said, you should have your own podcast called Dana Unfiltered, because she has no filter when she's on a podcast. So she talked about the time that her mom and dad and her, they were down in Emporia, and she was born in Emporia. And
so was I.
And so was Sarah.
There you
That's
go.
right. You want me to talk about Miss
No,
Emporia?
I
Okay,
don't.
never mind. I'm just going to leave that here. I always get slapped around for that one. Don't you dare say that. I was Miss Emporia. So Dana and her parents were driving around Emporia, and they drove in front of her childhood home. And her father, who is supposed to be a real pistol, this is probably where she gets it from, he goes, yeah, Dana, doggone it, see that front porch? That's where you conceived, kid. Gosh, I was great that night. And I mean, we fell out of our chairs, and here's Dana talking about it.
My parents sent me a photo last week. They were driving through Emporia. They took a photo of this old ramshackle, dilapidated house and sent it to me. My father is a very funny guy, and he said, you were conceived on this front porch. And I have been in therapy since. That's my dad. I go, wow.
Yeah, I can see Craig. I can see Craig doing that.
Thanks, Dad. And he literally said, yeah, I really gave it my all that night. I swear to God, Frank, I swear to you.
Sounds like Craig.
That's the text I got while I'm on the air. Thanks, Dad.
Oh man, that was a classic moment.
Yeah,
okay,
she was
really.
outrageous and on her game that entire episode.
Oh God, yeah. In fact,
funny.
Chris and I talked about it before they came in. He said, you realize what's going to happen? I said, exactly. I'm going to ask one question. You and I are going to sit there for 45 minutes, and she's going to talk. He said, absolutely. That's the way I like it.
This is a good time to drop too. That there, if you're just listening on the audio, you got to watch the YouTube because you got to see Chris's faces.
Oh, yeah.
Yes,
and her.
If you
And her.
didn't know that we are also on video, we are on YouTube.
Yeah,
also.
YouTube.
So yes, so you can watch these interviews and conversations, and they are hilarious.
Yeah, they are hilarious. And remember, it's a podcast, so you don't have to edit anything out. So it's a wonderful world of podcasting. There we go. Yeah, you get some good language on that one. Yeah, that's probably PG rated. Absolutely. Kate?
Okay, I think so. A little more on the serious side. I grew up here, and then I left for college, and I lived out in Charlotte, North Carolina for a couple years. Came back here as an adult, and really all of my friends, we talk about, gosh, is this the same Kansas? Did we just not know that Kansas City was like this? Because we weren't 18, and we weren't going downtown. We were just kind of living in our bubbles. Or is this how it's always been? Did it change? And, so my perspective is just this incredible Kansas City, this incredible Chiefs team and the Royals' success. I just got to kind of dive right into it. But so listening to so many of these episodes, but one that stood out to me was Carl Peterson when he's talking about, talking to Lamar and saying, we don't want to win just on the field. We got to win off the field too. And I just take for granted this incredible tailgating, culture that we have and the way that the Chiefs are just there's just something, what that something is. It's easy to forget that so much of it is carefully crafted strategically over years and years and years that put us here. So yeah, hearing Carl talk about that win on and off the field.
I said, Lamar, you got a 78,000 seat, beautiful football facility. You can park 26,000 cars in the Truman Sports Complex. We're going to make tailgating something very special. It's what they love to do, and I know the Midwest college football fans love to tailgate. I said, we're going to do the same thing here. And I said, it's going to hurt us at the concession stands because I'm going to encourage them to bring their food early in the morning, barbecue, all the rest.
Right.
We'll have contests.
And you know what else is coming? The beer and the cocktails and everything else.
And I said, and I don't know if you remember, my first year or two maybe, I let them go back out at halftime and reignite tailgating.
You opened the gates at halftime. You can't do that these days. But.
No, and came back. And it was either the first or second year we got it going, and we had 7 car fires.
Yeah, and and he talks about that college atmosphere, talks about putting coal bins out in the parking lot, the porta potties out in the parking lot. They just made it happen. They set that up, and then we made it our own as Kansas City.
Yeah, I think it's great. In fact, every team that comes in here talks about that. We think we have this great home field advantage, but these teams that come in love it. They love playing here. They really do because it reminds all those players about what it was like in college. Because a lot of the other NFL cities and stadiums are very. Yeah, you go to Philadelphia, they're going to boo their own team. It's just the way it is. Other people like San Francisco, a lot of times, people sit on their hands. The atmosphere is not, conducive to whatever.
And we have barbecue.
Yeah, and we have in the parking lot.
I know.
That was the amazing thing that Carl talked about. And Tim Connolly, of course, we mentioned him as well. He was the one who had the idea to get the corporate tents out on the field. And then all of a sudden it started to morph. Well, the corporate people want to get with us. Well, we'll just let them tailgate. And then to take that away from your concession areas as well, okay? You're encouraging people to bring their own food, drink, or whatever before they even go in the stadium. So that was that was something they really had to think about before they did because it cuts into profits. So, not just for you, but also for all your caterers and people of that nature. But it has certainly worked out. Another one for me was we're going to have a huge event coming here, 2026. We're going to have the World Cup. Of course, Matt Bezos, everybody's favorite soccer player, okay, Blue Valley West High School and the whole deal. He's just
I thought he was an intern when he was at 810.
Yeah, that's right. You did. He was an intern at one time.
There's a blooper.
I've got a lot of those.
and he is the first native Kansan to ever play in a World Cup. And just a great kid all around, and has stayed here since. And just a terrific player. He was the first native Kansan to play in a World Cup, like I said, and he was in Sao Paulo, Brazil, for the World Cup. In Brazil at that time, and he was playing on the United States men's national team, and he went down in the World Cup team, and they went down there and played, and he got to experience what it's like to be in a country when the World Cup is going on. So I asked Matt, I said, what will KC be like in 2026?
As soon as the schedule comes out, we're going to be able to see what teams are going to be playing here in Kansas City. And once that happens, that's when I'm going to get really excited because these teams are going to come to Kansas City and play, and thousands of their fans are going to come, and they're going to stay in Kansas City, and they're going to stay in our hotels, and they're going to walk our streets and eat at our restaurants. And that's just going to be different. You know, Kansas City, we don't get a lot of that.
Right.
The coasts might get that sometimes, but we don't get a lot of that. And so name a team, you know, like Argentina or Netherlands
Mexico.
or
Mexico will probably be down there.
but I mean,
Maybe
imagine
Germany.
Imagine for 3 days in the middle of a summer, and there's 30, 40,000 Germans walking around experiencing Kansas City. Like, that to me is exciting.
Okay, so you can tell from Matt, we are in for something we have never, ever experienced. And we have been working so hard. Kathy Nelson, of course, Kansas City Sports Commission, the mayors, the governors, everybody getting together. And this event is going to be unbelievable. Yeah.
You know, it'd be great. And you think about too, like Kansas City, we love cultures. We love where people are from. We love our Irish Fest. You know, we love our Oktoberfest, and we love going out to eat on the boulevard. And so we really embrace that. So I'm excited to see who comes here, and then I think we'll do a really uniquely great job of
celebrating all of those different,
embracing that culture
that's
and making people feel welcome.
Yeah, they're going to start to knock down part of Arrowhead for it as well.
Yeah, was Keith Bradley?
They have to kick out part of the corners of the stadium. They have to renovate it in order to get the field in, according to FIFA's. So they have to kick out part. So when they bring it back for the 2026 football season, it's going to be extremely interesting to see how they. After the World Cup leaves, what they're going to do with Arrowhead, and all of a sudden by that time we should know where the new baseball stadium is, where Arrowhead's going to be, and hopefully it's going to be done before 2026. Yes. So that's just that's just incredible. And you more?
Yeah, I can go. Or do you want to go, Mom?
Well, no, I was going to ask Ben.
So one of the ones that definitely stood out for me was Bobby Bell, and talking about being the first. Just some history, the first black family to buy a house in Prairie Village. It was just the history that came out of that. Hearing him tell about the challenges of coming in and seeing Prairie Village, what it is today, it's just really impressive to look back at that.
He showed the first house to me, his license. I looked at it, 4 bedrooms. I said, I'll take it. Signed the check, signed the paper. He jumped up and down and went back down to Crow Brothers and said, hey, guys, look.
I just sold this house.
I sold the first house I showed. And he jumped. They said, wow, who did you sell it to? I sold it to a Chief player. Everybody said, oh, man, that's great. They was hollering, screaming, man, wow. And the guy said, well, who was it? And the guy that ran the place, the head manager of the thing, he's in his office. He said, oh, yeah, Bobby Bell. And the door, boom. And the guy comes out and said, you can't sell that house, son. That's what he told the guy. He said, why? He said, hey, man, here it is for paperwork. He's got his loan and everything ready to go. And the guy said, you can't sell that house, son. I get a phone call later from Taylor, the guy that built the house. Him and his wife came over there and sat your page down there on the thing. He pulled in there, sat in my living room and said, I don't know what to tell you. He said, but you can get the house from me. You have your lawyer. I have my lawyer. He said, draw up the papers like I'm rich. I'll rent the house to you. They can't stop me. I'll rent you the house till you get it straightened out. I said, I got my truckload coming down and all that stuff.
Yeah.
He said, hey, me and my wife said, you can have the house. They blackballed him for that.
Wow.
Piggybacking on that, the fact that all of that went on, and when I asked him, why are you still here? And he said, there's just something about Kansas City. That says it all.
Yeah. It was amazing
really
because he was, it was racism, prejudice, bias, whatever you want. He couldn't buy his house. In fact, he was only a block and a half from
Talk
Hank
about
Stram.
Perseverance.
Who was his head coach, who couldn't even help him, despite the fact he tried to help. And then the way he went about getting the house bought, genius, just genius. I just thought that was just terrific. And and for them, and then for him to continue after that kind of treatment, to continue to live here, says something about the people of Kansas City. So, and how much things have changed here in Kansas City and how far we have come. Still got a long way to go, but how far we have come as far as this is concerned.
I think, too, we've talked about some of the higher moments. I think there have been some pretty poignant moments also. And that's something that is really one of the things that when I had the vision and we talked about, the vision for this, is I really wanted it to be something where the trust between you and the guests that you've already established over the years, I wanted that to come out, and I wanted that to be something that was visible and audible with your guests. Because when you guys have talked and things, you've really shared some things with some people that they've really opened up to you. The conversation between you and Ann Peterson and the loss of your children.
Yeah,
and
we both
sharing
lost
that.
sons, yeah.
And that is something that you shared with all of us, and that people can identify, and you've shared something with our community.
Yeah.
And I think that was really important, Also, one of the moments that I really loved, as big an icon as Tom Watson is, when he was in, and he shared growing up and the lessons that his own father taught him about the game of golf. And in all of the stuff that he's done and everything that he's done, the most important thing and what he goes back to in his lessons on golf and learning golf is what his father taught him.
Yeah, and all the etiquette surrounding the game and the whole thing. So, yeah, his dad was a big influence on him, which, it was great. That was a great concert. Tom and I have known each other for a long time. So, in fact, I have Tom Watson's putter. He gave me one of his putters. The putter he used in the 1983 U.S. Open when he was
You would have thought you'd have a better game.
I had to hear that, didn't I, Kate? I had. See, it's always a little.
Hey,
It's
it's either if it's not this, I'm sending him out on the senior tour.
well,
Okay?
forget that. It has nothing to do with Tom's putter. It's the putty. It's not the putter. It's the putty. It's me. But I have his putter from the '83 U.S. Open. He was defending champion because he'd won a year before in Pebble Beach, and he'd used that when he said, "I'm not going to use this anymore." Here, I didn't win. I didn't win the Open. I said, "Okay." I've been using it ever since. But he's been a great friend for a long time. So,
He has.
Kate, any other thoughts
Yeah.
on your brain there, kid?
Yeah, I think another one that I loved personally was Kathy Nelson. I loved her whole episode and hearing, I didn't know her story before she came in here. So hearing her whole story, and she's just, an incredible leader in our city now. But her quote when she went into the interview, because she was being interviewed, I'm going to cut here. What was the position? Was it to be the head of the sports
Kansas City Sports
That was
Commission.
for
She was
that
going to take
exact-
over for the guy who died. I forget.
Kevin.
Kevin.
Yeah.
Gray.
Kevin Gray.
Okay.
Okay, go ahead.
So when Kathy was going in for the interview to be the head of the sports commission, she had said no 3 times. She really wasn't interested. And to set this up, she had sat down with the hiring committee. It was like 7 board members, and she knew them all. And she went in and met with them one by one and really, really just didn't think that she was the right fit. And then she sat down with the one female interviewee, and she had a question for her that really kicked things off.
So I go to breakfast and had a great early conversation. And then it was, if you decided to do this, when would you do your Christmas shopping?
Ooh, wow! I like that question.
And I thought, I said, I'm not really a big shopper at all. And I don't know. I wouldn't.
I send Lance.
Right. Well, and then I sat there and she's like, but, grocery shopping and all this, when you get that done? And so I paused for a moment and I said, did you ask the male candidates the same question?
Here comes Dad again.
Yeah.
Comes Dad again.
And oh my gosh, I said, I don't think that would be my concern with this role. And I thought, I am interested.
Yeah.
Maybe I can make a difference.
So I just thought it was really cool that the deciding factor, she kind of sets it up like, I knew that this conversation was going to be what told me what I needed to hear. And I'm going in thinking that this woman's going to say something super inspiring to her. But the fact that it was a question of, well, how are you going to get your grocery shopping done? How are you going to get Christmas taken care of? That's what made her say, I think I'm going to go ahead and take this and show you.
I think I'm going to tell everybody exactly what I'm doing.
Yeah.
And she did.
And she has.
Yeah, and she really has. She's a juggernaut on her own right. When you can make the NFL commissioner cry after during the draft.
Not like you.
No,
did
when
to
I made her cry, yeah.
She probably
She
didn't do
didn't
that to
bring
him.
that part up, okay? So you didn't have to, all right? Just because we were screaming nose to
Yes,
nose.
exactly. You've learned to take your finger back. Yeah.
So, but, she still claims that's part of the reason why she didn't want to do grocery shopping or Christmas shopping either. So that was part of the deal. But she was she's a wonderful lady, and she's just
Awesome.
I mean, she is the juggernaut. She's the reason, along with everybody else, cooperation. But she's the one that brings everybody together. Yeah. She puts everybody together, and then they go get stuff done. She's a lot like you. You do the same thing. You put people together and then go and get stuff done, despite the fact that certain people don't want to do it, and they still have to end up doing it. So that is part of the deal. Yeah, this one is very, very short, so make sure you're listening here real closely. I think it's the best quote so far from all of them. Is Matt Naylor, who is the president and CEO of the World War I Museum and Memorial, and we were talking about there was a couple in from Iowa or something, and they had an adolescent kid, a boy, and they asked him what he wanted to do for his birthday. And he said, I want to go to Kansas City and I want to go to World War I Museum and Memorial. Now, a 14-year-old kid, okay, we're talking about, video games and screens and friends and, admitting this to anybody that you want to go to a museum on your 14th birthday. So he got done telling you a wonderful story. They came down, just had a wonderful time. And then we talked about, as far as an adult's concerned, the advice he gives for trying to raise a teenager.
When you're the parent of an adolescent, you've got two roles, to be a wallet and an idiot.
That is the best quote. I said, I'm going to use that right afterwards.
Right.
I'm going to use that. Okay,
We always knew it, but
Open wallet and an idiot.
There you go.
It's crazy. Yeah. But we have fun stuff like that in all these episodes. People have been very open. And I will say something that during the episodes, at least one time during every episode, I think I heard somebody say, I don't think I've ever told this story before. And I've had friends of mine who know, especially on the sports side, know Carl Peterson and Dayton Moore and Tom Watson and George Brett and people of that nature. And then they will come back to me and say, yeah, you know what? I never did hear that story before. That was pretty interesting. That was an insight I got. And then to be reminded of things like, Kate, you said, how this Chiefs thing came about. Or, Dayton Moore talking about all the stuff he had to go through as general manager in order to build that team and bring a world championship to Kansas City. And then Big Sonia, the Holocaust survivor, just talking about.
That makes a point because these are not just stories about, the sports teams and things.
Right.
Or even the companies, and it's these are personal stories. So they've given their personal stories about what it was like growing up, where they grew up, where what it was like with their families here in town, and the personal stories. And I love those. That's the behind the scenes.
Yeah. I think Big Sonia was great. That was one of the first times that I thought. When I was doing the interviews, and I came kicking and screaming into this, is because I'm going. Everybody relates me to sports, which is natural for what I did for all those years. I said, and then for me to do sports people, fine. Watson and I've had great relationships with the people in sports I've had to interview and interact with or whatever, and because they've been great to me. And I wasn't always good, as you will hear if you please listen to Carl Peterson and Dayton Moore going, I didn't always like the stuff you were asking me, but he said, we understood you had to ask it. Yeah. It was just the way you asked it and the way it happened. But when I had Big Sonia in, the Holocaust survivor, and we sat across the table from another, and she started relating what it had been like to be inside those concentration camps and just not being able to relate in that manner to the horror that she experienced from her 8th birthday until her 12th or 15th birthday, right in there somewhere. She watched her mom walk away into the gas chamber. I mean, you just go, she lost her father. She lost, all her relatives or whatever. And just for her, you could see it in her eyes. And this is a great YouTube one for Big Sonia. You could see it in her eyes. She was looking at me, but she was back there. She was in Germany. She was in the concentration camp. She was watching her mom walk away. She was all the experiences she had.
And when Ben and I were listening as you were talking to her, and she would repeatedly say, "You couldn't imagine." And Ben and I sat there
No,
and we
we
said to each
can't.
other, "We couldn't."
No, there's no way.
Who could? No one can. Absolutely not. No one can imagine.
No.
No.
And we just were shaking our heads thinking, "No. Absolutely not."
Right.
And I think some of this too is like, this is a legacy project. This podcast is, it's great to listen to today for how, each of these stories is impacting the day-to-day that we're living in. But I'm so glad that so many of these are getting captured, that we have. There won't be too much longer that we're going to be able to hear firsthand stories of people who have experienced the horror of the Holocaust and so many things that have brought us
Such
to where
an
we
education for all.
There are
of
very
us.
few people left that experienced the Holocaust. I mean, she's
Or
one of the
a lot of
last
things,
survivors.
yeah,
She's one of the last
And
survivors.
resilience of people like
Right.
Big Sonia.
Exactly.
And her still having her recognizance and her brain still working so much about it, And sometimes she'd go off on little tangents or whatever, try to bring her back. But she was phenomenal. It was just a phenomenal thing.
So much we can learn
Right.
from people, and you've made a great point, because that's what this is all about.
Yeah.
Yeah, and the learning, like, she had that trauma, she had that horror, and then she was a business owner. And she, has done great things here in Kansas City. And so what came out of that, I think just is so inspiring and
Yeah.
timeless.
So let's talk a little bit about what's going forward.
So excited.
Yeah, about
The future,
stuff we're going to do here in
Yeah.
2024, which is going to be phenomenal. So,
It's phenomenal. Here we are.
yeah.
It's
yeah.
2024.
Yeah, you're right. So,
If you're listening.
thanks,
yeah.
Kate. I'm still writing 2023 in my checks. All right, so thanks for reminding me. But the deal is, even for Ben going forward with this business, his business, which I think is growing and expanding and doing
As long as
all
we
kinds
still
of great
have a
things.
spot in here.
Yeah, well, he
We
better
can't get
have a
kicked out,
spot in
okay?
here, doggone it. Yeah, we went through a lot of stuff back at 810 for a long period of time. So I know where all his skeletons are. He knows where all my skeletons are. So we're
always a
just
good place to be.
Yeah, always a good place to be. But we have so many people coming up and things to talk about. History of Arrowhead Stadium. We've got just all of these people we have coming in who are going to tell us and talk to us more about the legacy of Kansas City and where we are as a city and how much we have grown since back in the day. Kate, like you said, you left for a while and you're older you're younger, you're older now, but you weren't here back in the day when it was downtown was a desert. I mean, there was no one there. People went down to go to work. They left immediately. There's nowhere to eat. There was no entertainment. There was nothing going on downtown. So all of those stories are going to be brought up. We're going to talk about Disney and their 100-year anniversary coming up.
And I think I'll tell you something that really, really was really interesting to me. We're coming at this from our perspective, but Ben and Kate and others have given us ideas
Yes.
and those different perspectives of a different demographic, age level, those kind of things that we had never thought about. We've got social media influencers
Yes.
coming on. I had no idea what that was. No idea. And then when I found out that you could actually go places and have wonderful meals and see things and get paid for it too, I was like, wait a minute.
Maybe you got in the
That was
wrong
never
gig
an
here.
option.
Wait a minute. I didn't think about that. How come I didn't have that idea?
Exactly.
Yeah.
So, yeah, but that was a new phenomenon to me and Kate and Ben, and they have amazing ideas. And so
Yeah, right.
I'm grateful for that.
I
because,
was an influencer at a very young age. Did you know that?
Okay,
I
all
didn't tell you
right.
this,
But
did I?
that's the different kind of influence.
I was a bad influence, but I was an influencer.
Yeah.
The heck, come on now.
No,
And Kate, what are your thoughts? I know we've got people coming up who are influencers and who are we've got coming up. We've got our fingers crossed, but we're talking about people like Tech Nine. We're talking about people who here's Tech Nine, African American, hip hop, whatever, and this old white guy sitting across the table. That's going to be that's going to be a
Maybe
pretty
he can-
interesting
he
conversation.
can teach you some things.
He's going to be able to
yeah, exactly.
to teach me a lot of things. But just people like that. We're going to have people who are influencing Kansas City or true Kansas Cityans who love it here, and to go from there.
Yeah, and I just have to say, I mean, for me, the first few episodes that I listened to, Frank, it was like, this is really interesting. We're talking to some people that Frank knows or some people that I'm familiar with, and cool, great interviews. And then slowly they started to build and build and build in ways where I realized that it's layers. It's hard to pick my favorite moments from the year because it's painted hearing George Guastello and Matt Naylor talk about, the way that all of the things that set downtown up to be revitalized. Sure. It's just, I really encourage, if you only listen to a few episodes because somebody you knew or somebody you love was on here, go back, listen to the full breadth of it, because
got a whole
every
new
single new
understanding.
person that comes on just adds a layer. And so, there's so many cool guests coming up and talking
the
about the World
interviews
Cup.
that we've done in the past also that were like, wait a minute, this is way more than today. So Terrence O'Malley, when he's talking about Nellie Dawn, and then you get into all of these other things, and he's got so much knowledge, just a wealth of knowledge in Kansas City. So it's like, okay, we need to have him back. He's going to talk about
history of the
Truman
mafia
and Pendergast, and there's so many things that we're gonna kind of jump into to talk to about, and even with George Guastello and the Disney exhibit that's coming up, and there's so many conversations that are yet to be had too. So and I think one of the things that I wanted to jump in just really quick and say too, because it's been really neat. Like I said, behind the scenes, kind of, getting these interviews set up and things, I've gotten to meet some of the neatest people, and they're kind of like in my position. So the Karrases, I've got a whole list of people that would take a whole show to do, but the Angies, the Brads, the Daves, all of these people that have been supportive of us and our mission and what we're trying to do, I appreciate all of them, and I feel like I've got friends in the community now that I never had before.
Great. We'll roll their names after this.
Exactly. That'll take about 20,
right,
30
Ben?
minutes.
It'll be, just a mere, just a little something.
Sounds real easy. Yeah, no good. No problem.
Hey, listen, we just want to thank you folks for the first 6 months, and we are going to do this. We have this planned out in the future. So we are well on our way. We've got years worth of material, and we're going to use it. And like Kate said, it is a legacy project, and we are just adding layers to the onion. And then you can peel those layers back and watch some that interest you, and you see, if I watch this, maybe I'll watch over here. Or something that doesn't, I'm not sure I want to listen to this particular episode, but I'll give it a shot. And you're going to learn about the people, places, and things that make this such a wonderful place to live. And as we always say, there's just something about Kansas City.